John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on March the 11th in the year of our Lord 2026, and as usual, I've got some great information for you. Let's jump over here to Murtech on Rumble, and this is the live stream we're going over tonight, episode 1855, so let's jump into this. Let me go ahead and pause that. Hi, Deb Brandt, Susie Poll 2016, and Debbie BS. Yeah, I'll take a look at that link here in a little bit, Deb Brandt. Thank you so much. All right, let's scroll down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. We have information from Dan Bongino, Dr. Steve Turley, Steve Gruber Show, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do have some shout-outs to give. Who Dat Nation Gal just started following my channel. And Ann Bean just started following my channel. Jimmer just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. Okay, Cotton Ball commented on my episode 1854. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 636C. And 637A and 637B and 637C. So thank you very much for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me go ahead and click this thumbs up. And if you could give me a thumbs up, folks, that would be fantastic. Okay, let's see what Dan Bongino has to say. It's time for divorce, episode 2470. So let's check it out and see what this is all about.
Today we're going to open up with a hard conversation. Everybody ready? I'm asking like you're all going to respond, but that's what the chat's about. We got to have a tough conversation today. We've mentioned it before, but this is getting, at this point, so unbelievably toxic that the problem is I'm not sure there's going to be an antibiotic to kill this bacteria if it starts to fester and get gangrenous, and we're reaching the red line here. We're reaching the red line of we're going to have to like amputate. You know where I'm going with this, folks. We're in a really bad place right now. Something happened yesterday. I was going to go a totally different place with this show this morning, and I'm saying because I got really a ton of material to address between Iran and the media debacle last night on CNN of catastrophic proportions. However, I put out a really simple tweet yesterday. And the 10th was the 6-month anniversary of the murder of our good friend and my good friend, Charlie Kirk. So, I just want to recognize Charlie. It was really a simple moment. A moment you wouldn't think would be in any way, controversial at all. I, just said indicated on X how it really was one of the saddest days of my life. I almost couldn't believe it. I know a lot of you couldn't either. And what happened afterwards, I just looked at myself and said, man, I can't believe this. I can't believe that this great movement is just devolving into this. It's like I said, if this is a movement, and it's not, by the way. If it were, I would want no part of it. I'll wrap this thing up tomorrow. Be like, I'm out, man. It's okay. You know what I mean. You've seen it. So I got a lot to address today. I've got that. I've got some just stunning video, something that happened on CNN last night that ordinarily we'd give people outside of left-wing media. You let people make a mistake and move on, but this is not a mistake. It happens all the time. And that's why the public's just done with these people and nobody trusts the media anymore. So big show for you today. Today's show brought to you by one of my favorite products, a product that came along as you can don't you HSU. Those shoes don't go a day more intense. OSE checkout. I saw this tweet. Your subscription didn't affect anything else. Dose, enter Bongino at checkout. Check it out. The product is amazing. All right, get to the show. So I saw this tweet yesterday, and sometimes I can't believe it's been 6 months. I mean, we all remember the day that our good friend, I say our good friend because a piece of Charlie belonged to everyone. He was a bridge between so many components of this movement. He was. He was a bridge between the younger kids. He was a bridge between some establishment folks, between some more conservative folks, between old school hawks and some newer school doves. Charlie, because Charlie had to be a bridge builder, he had an organization that appealed to a large number of people. Charlie had to learn to talk to people in a different way. Charlie had a skill. I saw this tweet up by Turning Point yesterday. 6 months and still, or a couple of days ago, Charlie's vision challenges us to think bigger, stand taller, and fight harder for the country he loved. Folks, not over exaggerating anything, but as a very close personal friend of Charlie who shared a lot of his interests, Charlie and I would talk about radio, about podcasting, about politics, about candidates. And the fact that it's been 6 months and just a couple days right now is just, we all remember where we were. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know how you feel, and please comment away in the chat. Jeff and then C says he absolutely would have been president one day. There are 3 moments in my life that stick out. I mean, stick out like I can remember the smell, the look, the sounds. When Reagan was shot, I was a kid. I was in a Buster Brown store. My mother was trying on new shoes for me, was putting new shoes on and the guy came out of the back and said, "Oh my God, it's exactly Reagan was shot." And I remember as a little kid being like, "Wait, what?" I remember like it was yesterday. I also remember the space shuttle, Kristen McAuliffe. I mean, I remember, was it Miss Gilfeather, the teacher in 5th grade, came in and said, the space shuttle just exploded. I don't. You have these moments too. You guys have them too, I'm sure. I mean, Jasmine. You have them, right? We all have like those. Those 2 stick out to me. The third was Charlie. I was sitting in my office in the Hoover Building on the 7th floor, and there's a TV in the office. And obviously, I had it on Fox. I wanted to see actual news, not fake stuff. And Sandra Smith was on. Do you guys remember? And having had a TV show on Fox myself, the golden rule of television is you never stop talking on TV. You can stop talking on radio and play a cut because nobody knows what's going on because they can't see you. On TV, if you stop talking, everybody's staring at you and you look like this. Here, I'll even do it for a second on the podcast. It's uncomfortable here. You feel how weird that is? Sandra Smith just stopped talking, and I saw her head go down in her hand. Now, I have the TV on mute because I'm doing a meeting about the FBI was destroying a bunch of our own guns. It was like the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. And I said, wait, everybody time out. Something's going on. And I saw on the Chiron, Charlie Kirk was shot. We all remember where we were. Unbelievably, that was 6 months ago. I'm going to tell you something. However uncomfortable it is to hear, there was a lot of commentary afterwards that this was going to be some unifying moment for the country, that, okay, this is enough. We finally reached like a breaking point. I'm going to tell you something. I never really thought that. Maybe for a split second, I thought, but I dispelled that. The second I went to X and saw the explosion of negativity, people cheering it on, and 1,000 different theories about what had happened, I just knew this was not going to be what we thought it was going to be. And that's the saddest tragedy of all, that this powerhouse who served as a bridge between so many groups of people and found these intersection points, found in economics the market clearing price for an idea we could all agree on, right? I just knew the country was just going to explode over it. So I just put out a tweet yesterday, and I just was acknowledging 6 months because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I posted a couple pictures, and I was even taken aback by the explosion in bots. Not all of it was bots, but a good point, you can tell. The bot comments, the negativity. Folks, we can't go on as a party like this. There's no movement that can possibly survive inside its own tent, having a cancerous, bacteria-laden pustule, there's no way. It'll absolutely consume the host. I'll address this with Sean later, but Sean Farrell's my guest later. But the problem we're having now, any good party, remember the Reagan 80-20 rule? Like not everyone in a party is going to agree on everything. There's going to be disagreement. That's a good thing. We're not robots. However, if I agree with you on 80% of the issues, we're in a good spot. Reagan used to say, I'll come back for the other 20 later. You may get it, you may not. But forget about the politicians in Capitol Hill, the political class. I'm talking about us, the people who vote, the people who tune into political podcasts, who follow this stuff and live and die by the greatness of this country and making it a little bit better on the margins every single day. We agree on 80% of the stuff. The 20% we disagree on, that's healthy and normal. The problem with the cancerous, bacteria-laden pustule growing on this party, and it's still controllable, is they spend 80% of their time attacking the rest of us who are supposed to agree with them on 80% of the issues, and only 20% of the time going after the real opponent, which is the collectivist communist left. Folks, it's a math problem we're not going to be able to overcome if we don't cut this out soon. Now, there is still time. I know when you're on X, you think to yourself, I saw an article this morning in a mainstream outlet, but it was actually pretty accurate. The point of the article was this, like, the social media world on X is not indicative of what the real world is thinking. If you just look at the data, put up that interactive polls thing I saw yesterday. Here's a perfect example. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Trump is handling the situation in Iran? MAGA supporters, 91% approval. Republicans in general, 83% approval. Those are super, super duper majorities. There is no unified disagreement on what's happening with Donald Trump's policy in Iran right now. There may be if things break bad in the future. There's just not. Those are just the numbers. Yet, you go online in the social world and you're given this warped perception of what reality is. And there's a problem with that. The problem with that is then people start to tailor, it's the finger licking approach. Let me lick my finger and see where the wind is going. You ever play outfield in baseball? You throw grass in the air, see which direction the wind is blowing, so you know how the ball's gonna move when it's up in the air. If you're a baseball player, you know what I'm talking about. Grass throwing, finger licking. The problem is they think the wind is blowing in that direction. Oh my gosh, there's this unified support against Donald Trump right now. He's really blowing it. That's just not true. That is just not true, at least with our movement. Yes, there are a lot of Democrats and media people who hate what Donald Trump's doing. They hate everything Donald Trump's doing. Fair enough. I'm talking about within our party. This is a small minority of people. Getting back to what I was talking about before, I wake up this morning, there's this mainstream media article piece that was not terribly inaccurate. It was just giving raw numbers about how something like 4 out of 5 Americans are not even on social media regularly at all. So you're seeing this stuff, bots, paid influence campaigns, and some normal people who just don't like what Donald Trump's doing. And you get this perception of it like, oh my God, this party's collapsing, everything's falling apart. Meanwhile, you see polling even on CNN. We played that Harry Anton CNN segment last week. Donald Trump's approval rating at this point of his presidency is above George W. and Obama, where they were with their respective parties and the voters in general. I'm just trying to follow the advice. Was it Friedman gave to Walter Williams one time? When you talk about liberty, talk about it with a smile. Folks, when you talk about our party, talk about it with a smile. We are in a good place. And the doom and gloom stuff, while 20% of the time should be spent cleaning up our own party, pushing the SAVE Act, pushing people in a more conservative direction, we should not be spending 80% of the time just beating the shit out of each other. There's an opportunity cost to that. That time could be spent elsewhere. There's an opportunity cost to time. A foregone opportunity that you didn't take because you're busy attacking each other is time completely wasted you're never going to get back. I want you to remember something too about these folks. When you're listening to content out there that seems like it's agenda driven, in other words, like this doesn't sound right. Like this guy or this woman wasn't saying this for the last 5 or 10 years. I have been remarkably consistent on a lot of my policy positions. I've changed my mind on some things. I think I've been pretty honest about that based on new inputs. It's the way human beings are. When it comes to my big ideological tent poles, I've been remarkably consistent. I don't lick my finger and see where the money is and who's saying what. Other people seem to be doing that. And I want you to ask yourself 2 questions, 2 important questions when you're watching that content and something just doesn't, I hate this term, like smells wrong, because there's no smell to it. But everybody knows what that means. When something just smells wrong, that salmon's like 3 days old, should I eat it? Probably not. When something smells wrong, there's probably something wrong. There's probably some bacteria growing in there. I want you to keep in mind these 2 things. I mentioned this before when reviewing content. Is the content valid and is the content reliable? Because those aren't the same things. You can have a scale, forgive me if you've heard this analogy before, but it's critical, that is reliable but not valid. How can that possibly be? Say you get on a bathroom scale in a hotel and there's a sign on the wall that says, this scale is off by 20 pounds. It's going to add 20 pounds. They put it on so you don't jump off the balcony because you think you're really fat or something like that, right? So you get on, I weigh like 205. What's the scale going to say? Liberals are having a tough time with the math. Normal people are like, it's going to say 225. It's reliable. If my wife gets on and it's 100 pounds, it's going to say what? It's going to say 120, correct? That's reliable, but it's not valid. You understand? It's not valid. It's not measuring your weight. You're not 225, and my wife's not 120. It's not valid. It's not measuring your weight because that's not your weight. So when you see content in the space that is reliably wrong, but reliable, they say the same thing every time. World War III, World War III, World War III, World War III, economic crash, tariffs, gloom and doom, all this other stuff, and they are reliably wrong. They are reliable, but they're not valid because they're not actually accurate. And folks, that has to matter. And when you see something that is reliably wrong, you've got to excise it from your movement. There is no other way. Gosh, I'm going to tell you something, man. That thing with Charlie yesterday, I've never seen anything like it. I love X and I love free speech. I put my money and my life behind it. Hell, man, I invest in a platform where people use it to shit on me all day. Go for it, man. Go for it. That's what it's about. I'm allowed to fight back too. But I put my money into that place. I've invested in your ability to go and attack me. Can you really say the same? I am not about censorship. I don't like boycotts against our side or anything like that. The other side, whatever, they're on their own. But the thing with Charlie, I have never seen hatred like this in my life. I mean, this is just unadulterated evil. There's a spiritual war going on right now. We're living in it right now. Charlie was an amazing guy. Everything about him was good and pure. Can I tell you something quick? And I'm not going to share any texts or anything like that. So that's just the wrong thing to do. Like, other people do your own thing. That's just not my thing. Those are meant to be two, a one-way conversation, him to me, and one way back, me to him. That's it. One time, Charlie wanted me to speak at an event. So whenever Charlie wanted me to speak at an event, Charlie would go through Paula. Charlie and Andrew, Andrew. They would go through Paula. So Paula had almost as much interaction with Charlie and Andrew as I did because Paula is the Bongino queen and she runs the schedule. So, I mean, seriously, like they knew each other as well as I knew them. There was an event one time, I'm not going to say where it was, but we had made a last minute decision. This is not that long ago to attend a big event. And it was last minute, and everyone had asked us if we were going to go. We had said no. Last minute, we changed our mind, and we wind up going. Paula walks by an event Charlie was hosting, and she's like, man, I can't believe we weren't invited. Well, the reason we weren't invited was because we told him we weren't going. So I said, yeah, he just probably didn't think we were going. But I'm talking to Charlie about a week or so later, and I just mentioned it as a joke. I'm like, yeah, Paula was she was a little miffed. We didn't get an invite to the event. I swear to you, I'm like laughing about it because we told him. And he's like, you told us you weren't going. I said, yeah, I know. Do you know Charlie sent, I swear to you, I'm not showing anyone. I promise you. Charlie sent this like Tolstoy-like manifesto to Paula, apologizing for not inviting an event we told him we weren't going to go to when I was just joking about it because he was so concerned about how she felt. He had no reason to do that. We didn't even really care. It was not that big of a deal. If I ever was going to show you a text, I'd show you that one. I promise you, though, it's there. That's who he was. He had no reason to send that at all, except the fact that he really cared. He was an amazing guy, folks, an amazing guy. And it's just, I'm just asking you as a friend and one of you. I am. I'm just one of you. I'm not perfect. The last year of my life was very challenging. I got a bunch of people reaching out about all kinds of commentary about things. And it was simultaneously the most enjoyable and then challenging part of my life at the same time. But I'm not Professor X. I'm not, Magneto. I don't have any X-Men like Marvel superpowers. I'm not the Flash on the DC side. I'm not George R. Banks. You get that later. I don't have any special powers, man. I'm just like a regular guy with an average IQ who just God's blessed with an audience. That's it. And what's the most powerful superpower in the world? The ability to command attention in an audience. But that's who he was. And I'm just asking you as a friend going forward, we should really take this opportunity now that it's been 6 months since we lost Charlie and the bridge between all the different factions of this MAGA tent. We should really take the opportunity to reevaluate everything. Even we do. I'm going to try. I've tried to be a little bit less hostile on X. I've tried. And I'm going to try going forward. How it's going to work, I don't know. I still got a bit of Queens in me. But it is so important that we take back this movement. And when we talk about it, that we talk about it with a smile. No one wants to be part of a miserable movement, folks. We're the movement that represents liberty and freedom and all the good things God gave us. It's better than this. All right. I got a lot to get to today. That was just the beginning of the show. I haven't even really gotten to the core of what I'm going to talk about.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pause that there and finish this up in my daily news wrap-up. But I thought that was interesting. I mean, this is really something heartfelt from Dan Bongino. And he's right. I mean, there are so many negative reporting from the lying legacy mainstream media and other deep state hacks. It makes me scratch my head once in a while, but, you get back to the basics and, yeah, we're all in this together and we need to stick together. Let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from the Dan Bongino Show. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. And let me close out the chat here. We've got some great chats here from a lot of great people. Check them out. Give me your input. Okay, let's see what Dr. Steve Turley has to say about you won't believe what's happening in Cuba. Okay. Well, let's check it out then.
History is unfolding, and we have a front row seat. While Operation Epic Fury dominates the headlines, President Trump just dropped a bombshell about the nation of Cuba. The communist regime is collapsing. And what's coming next will reshape the entire political map of the Americas in ways we haven't seen since the end of the Cold War. Stick with me to the very end of this video because we're going to see a pattern emerging all across Latin America that has the political right celebrating and the woke left absolutely panicked. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patriot professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Analysts across the globe are all saying it. We've simply never seen anything like this. Libertà, freedom. Freedom, it's the Braveheart chant. The arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been catastrophic for the communist regime in Cuba. The fuel shortage has brought daily life on the island to a complete standstill. Garbage is piling up on the streets because the trucks can't run. Rolling blackouts across the entire country are now more and more frequent. Food shortages, medicine shortages, nearly 11 million people on an island with no money, no oil, no allies left. And the people are rising up, and Trump is answering their cries.
He quickly turned to Cuba. He said, without being asked, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon, by the way, but Cuba is going to fall. They want to make a deal so badly. And I asked, how so? He said, they want to make a deal, so I'm going to put Marco over there, and we'll see how that works. But we're really focused on this one now, meaning Iran. We've got plenty of time on Cuba.
And this isn't just talk. The Telegraph is now reporting that Trump is negotiating an actual deal with the Cuban regime, an off-ramp that would allow Diaz-Canel, their president, and the Castro family to remain in Cuba without facing prosecution in exchange for relinquishing power. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, is personally leading these negotiations. And his counterpart on the Cuban side is not the current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, but Raul Guillermo Rodriguez, the grandson of Raul Castro, the previous president, who's 94 years old, by the way, if you could believe it. So we're talking about direct negotiations between the son of Cuban exiles and the grandson of the revolution's founding family. I mean, you could not possibly script this better. And that's not random. The Trump administration views the elder Raul Castro as Cuba's true decision maker. Even though he's 94 and not officially in power, they believe he's the one the buck stops with, not their current president, Diaz-Canel, which is why they're basically bypassing Havana entirely and dealing directly with the Castros. The deal would involve lifting certain sanctions and easing restrictions on American travel to Cuba, access to Cuban ports and energy sectors for U.S. companies, tourism reopening. It would include an exit strategy for President Diaz-Canel, allowing him to step down without prosecution. The Castro family would be allowed to stay on the island. This is the crucial sweetener. This is why this deal will most likely happen. Rather than demanding exile or punishment, the deal would let the Castros remain in Cuba with immunity. It'll certainly provoke some outrage and ire among Miami exiles, but it does mirror the very successful Venezuela approach. And of course, an end to the oil embargo, which is basically starving the island at this point. If there is no deal, the embargo remains in place, the island's degeneration continues, and it'll only be a matter of time before Cuban officials are sitting in a New York prison cell next to Nicolas Maduro, who apparently is singing like a bird as we speak. He's reportedly giving up tons of information on the narco-terrorist network in the Caribbean. So Trump is basically making the Cuban regime an offer they can't refuse. Now, Cuba's UN ambassador is characteristically dismissing all of this. He's saying it's mere speculation, and he insisted Cuba would only negotiate with mutual respect, equal conditions, and the promise of non-interference, blah, 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 blah. That's diplomatic speak for saying, yeah, we're screwed. Because you'll notice that the regime has yet to even remotely deny these talks are happening. And Trump keeps publicly confirming the talks are happening. So that suggests Havana knows exactly which way this is heading, and they're just doing their best to save face in the process. So that's where we are. Cuba is completely isolated, economically collapsing, militarily irrelevant. And now, for the first time in 65 years, they're sitting at a negotiating table with the United States discussing the terms of their own surrender. We are living in absolutely unprecedented times. Don't blink, because you might miss history in the making. It's happening that fast and that frequently. It's absolutely astonishing. But what's about to happen to Cuba and what already happened in Venezuela is actually all part of a much bigger geopolitical realignment that's happening all throughout Latin America. What we're witnessing right now, from Caracas to Havana to Buenos Aires, or from Buenos Aires, I should say, to San Salvador, is really nothing less than a civilizational realignment of the Western Hemisphere. And it's absolutely staggering in its scope. Wait till you see this. But first, gang, a note about your health. You know, one of the biggest health crises facing America right now, it's not just heartbeat core
this is actually
you
commercial. I'm going to go ahead and jump past this. Get back to the news.
For U.S. residents only. I want to pull back and give you the big picture here, because Cuba isn't happening in a vacuum. Think about where we were just 2 years ago. Latin America was dominated by the so-called pink tide. So here in this image, you see it in red. Okay, that red means liberal. That red means left wing. It's not conservative. The continent was liberally covered by a wave of left-wing governments aligned with China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba. Venezuela, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Honduras, all governed by leftists, all hostile to the United States, many of them openly aligned with America's enemies. And now, look at the map today. That blue is all conservative. It's all right-wing. Nine Latin American countries are now governed by right-wing presidents and administrations. Javier Milei in Argentina, who just won a landslide in their midterms last October. Daniel Noboa, reelected in Ecuador. Rodrigo Paz in Bolivia. And one of his first acts, interestingly enough, was restoring diplomatic relations with Israel. Jose Antonio Cast in Chile, the most conservative president since Pinochet, elected with 60% of the vote. Laura Fernandez Delgado, she just won in Costa Rica on a crime-fighting, conservative, pro-life platform. Osfura in Honduras, who's already said he wants to deepen ties with the United States and review Honduras' relationship with China. Santiago Peña in Paraguay, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, and of course now Venezuela, while not right-wing, certainly not right-wing, but nevertheless aligning with the United States. That's not a political shift. That is a tectonic plate moving. And it's not done. I mean, look what's coming. In Brazil, they have their elections, their presidential elections this year. Flavio Bolsonaro, the eldest son of Jair Bolsonaro, he's leading Lula by nearly 10 points in the latest polling. I mean, this is the largest country in South America, the largest economy. And Bolsonaro's son looks poised to take the place of his father and hopefully bail him out of jail as well. In Colombia, they just held legislative elections this past Sunday. The right wing is surging there. Petro, Colombia's first ever leftist president, the former guerrilla, he's been an absolute disaster. He's cycled through, I think it was like 60 ministers in 4 years. His coalition is fractured. The presidential election is in May, and the right is expected to come roaring back there. In Peru, the presidential election is April 12th, and a right-wing candidate is heavily favored to win. So that's the larger context of what's happening here. This is a seismic political realignment throughout the Western Hemisphere. Again, not all right wing, but all right aligned, as we might say. They're aligned with the United States, and that's what's so key. You often hear of American exceptionalism, but what we're seeing happening here in this realignment is American civilizationalism. This is about civilizational gravity. You know, for decades, the Western Hemisphere, it was the one region where the liberal international order was supposed to be unchallengeable. This was America's backyard. But liberalism only ended up hollowing out our hemispheric dominance. So the Monroe Doctrine, in effect, got replaced by globalism. And as a result, for the last 20 years, we watched as country after country in Latin America drifted toward China, toward Russia, toward Iran, toward Cuba's revolutionary model. We watched as hostile regimes open their doors to Chinese infrastructure, Russian military advisors, and Iranian-backed Hezbollah cells operating out of what's called the tri-border area between Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. What Trump is doing, whether he articulates it this way or not, is re-civilizationalizing, that's a big word, re-civilizationalizing the Western Hemisphere. He's revivifying the Monroe Doctrine now as the Donroe Doctrine. He's not just flipping governments from left to right. He's reestablishing the gravitational pull of American civilization over its own neighborhood. Sam Huntington would call it, he's reestablishing the United States as a core state for all these satellite states around us. Venezuela wasn't just a regime change. It was a signal. It told every leftist government in the hemisphere, align with America's enemies, and you will be removed. Cuba's the confirmation of that signal. And the elections sweeping the continent from Santiago to La Paz to Brasilia are all the collective civilizational response.
All right, folks, great information. I always like Dr. Steve's delivery and the information that he provides. I mean, he does his research. He knows what he's talking about. Let me click on the Rumble link here
align
and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and close out the chat again. I was chatting a little bit with Uncloudy and Foxy Grandma. Okay, let's slide down here and see what Steve Gruber show has. Michigan News You Should Know with Katie Heid. Uh-oh, there we go. Okay, let's check
Here
it
we
out.
go. Boblo Island, and if I hadn't, Katie Heid and I were just talking in the break. She's from Michigan News Source. She's the news director there. She joins me now. Katie, good morning. Boblo Island is this big island next to Mackinac Island, right? About 100 people live there, but it's spelled Boisblank. I had no idea it was pronounced Boblo. Thankfully, we have a smart team working for us in Northern Michigan, because I would have said Bois Blanc. Anyhow.
Yes. Yeah, named by the French, Steve. And I watched a little video last night just to brush up on my Boblo Island skills. And they said it was named from the French, but the people that live there don't care. They pronounce it the way they want.
Yeah, well, the biggest crime in Boblo Island memory occurred last night. A guy held up in his house after shooting his neighbor's house with his neighbors in it, apparently. That's still a crime, even on Boblo Island. Only about 100 people live there. I mean, it's remote, Katie. If you want to write a book or nap for like a week, this is the place, I think. Anyhow, I don't have the suspect's name, but he was firing shots through the walls of his neighbor's house. That's still illegal, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home. He is in custody. It's a developing story, but we got that because we have really great connections all across the state. Our team really worked great last night getting that done, didn't they?
They did. We have fabulous reporters. I love our connections in Northern Michigan. They were listening to the dispatch audio, and we were able to get that firsthand. So if you want to find out about that story and any of the other great stories that we write about, head to MichiganNewsSource.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social.
Well done. See how she slides that right in there? See, like a professional. She gets it right in there. All right, so here's something that I saw, and I didn't know this either. I got it from MichiganNewsSource.com. Why? Because I don't get all the stories either. I rely on a great team. Here's the headline. Jackson High School substitute teacher runs away with the LA Marathon. Really?
Isn't that amazing? Good for him. And if you watch the video of this man running, it's Nathan Martin. He's 36 years old. He's a substitute teacher at Jackson High School, and he's also the track and cross country coach. So that makes a little sense about why he ran the LA Marathon. But if you look at the video that we post on our web, the announcers have written him off. They have the first place guy, Nathan Martin, is back a little bit, and they're saying that this is how the race is going to end. And all of a sudden, Nathan Martin just books it. He's already run 26.1 miles. He's got to finish that last little bit, and he goes up and has a photo finish and wins the marathon. It's just amazing to watch, and good for him.
Yeah.
In 2 hours, 10 minutes, and some sort of seconds. And I have a husband who has run marathons for 30 some years.
Yeah.
He is very good. He can tell you that 2 hours and 10 minutes is an extremely good time.
Yeah, 2 hours, 11 minutes, 18 seconds, overtaking Kenya's Michael Kamau, who was, by the announcer saying, Kamau's got this. Well, Kamau doesn't have this.
No.
Some substitute teacher from Jackson, Michigan just blew his doors off by this much, but he still won.
What a great lesson for athletes and everyone.
Never give in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your husband, has run marathons for years, which is why he should seek mental help immediately. Yeah, I'm not a runner, Katie. I'm not a. That's why they built the internal combustion engine, in my estimation. That's why we have that thing.
No, he runs them. He loves them, and I love cheering for him. His best one was 2 hours and 40 some minutes. I'm just extremely proud of him. But if I ran a marathon, I'd be picked up by the golf cart people doing the sweep at the end. So I'll gladly go and cheer.
I could do it in 2 weeks, 11 hours, and 18 minutes.
Right.
Anyhow, let's see a more serious story out of Clawson, Michigan today. And boy, does she get ripped by some of the speakers. A woman refuses to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance during the meeting. I mean, what is wrong with these? Are public officials who are openly, if I may be so bold, giving the middle finger to America and to their community, right?
We reached out to Heather Rinkevent. She's the city council member there from Clawson who did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we asked for more clarification on why she didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the video recorded during the council meeting, she said, quote, "Words have meaning to me. I cannot stand an affirmation of those words unless I believe we are living up to them," unquote. And the question I have is, what would have to happen in order for you to stand? What changes would have to be made? And we hear this a lot, Steve, that there are, until X, Y, and Z is rectified, we will not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. America has never been a perfect country, and no one has ever claimed that. We stand for the pledge because we love our country, and we are eternally grateful to the men and women who have sacrificed for the rights that we have. That's why we stand.
Amen, mic drop. Bam. Well done, Katie. I mean, one nation. We are still one nation under God. As we sit here today, we are still one nation under God, and I find it reprehensible. She should resign, in my estimation, or the people of Clawson should toss her out on her ear, which I think they probably will, by the way. Small town America still believes in this country. We still believe in this country. We believe in Michigan, and it's a simple, silly thing. And the last thing I want to get to, Erica Kirk is going to be the commencement speaker for Hillsdale College, the widow of Charlie Kirk, who was gunned down in front of people at Utah Valley University, September the 10th, 2025. What do you make of this?
I think it's a great move for Hillsdale and for anyone sitting in that audience, for the graduates, of course. Charlie Kirk had a connection to Hillsdale beyond just supporting the institution. He took dozens of their online courses where he learned more in-depth history and politics and religion and how the country works. And those are courses that you can take online for free. You can give a donation, but anyone can take those courses, and you don't have to be working towards a degree. And Charlie Kirk did not have a college degree, but believed that life was spent best learning and continuing to learn to help
That's
him
correct.
be a better person and a better husband and father and an American. And so that connection is extremely strong. And I think Hillsdale made a very good move, and the graduates certainly have an excellent speaker to listen to.
There you go. And you can find out more about this story and all the stories we just discussed. MichiganNewsSource.com. Katie and the team working their tails off every day for you. Whether it's Boblo Island or Hillsdale or all points in between, including the Great Upper Peninsula. MichiganNewsSource.com. Katie, thank you.
All right, there you have it, folks. I thought that was just nice information about Michigan that I wanted to share with you. Let's jump over here on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from the Steve Gruber Show. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. Before we move on to Wendy Bell, I do want to. No, let's just go ahead and do Wendy. Let's go ahead. I was going to share some information from MeWe, uh, uh, from Rumble, but let's go on with Wendy. Senate Snails, okay? We know about the Save America Act, and John Thune is definitely dragging his feet because he is a rhino cork biter. Here we go.
It was kind of a ho-hum passing comment in the early morning hours 2 days ago. It was Monday. And my twins, Bob and Chris, are getting ready to go to high school, getting ready to go, winding down their senior year. And so all of the SAT prep, all of the college application stuff they've done, God bless them, they took care of all of it. They got into some schools, they got rejected from some schools. And they kind of haphazardly, my son Bobby tells me in the dark on Monday, right, with daylight saving, it wasn't quite light out when they were heading to school. And he goes, well, Mom, I put my deposit down at Tennessee. So there's that. I was like, really? Huh. So let me get this straight. I carried you for 6 months, 7 months. It's as long as I could hold you before you two had to come out. We gave you life. We've supported you. We've nurtured you. We've given you everything we can. We've gone through school. We've gone on visits. We've gone through life together. I've taught you how to drive, right? We've gone through so much. And so you're going to bury the lead that you've just decided on the University of Tennessee and you charge my credit card $250 to hold it. Do you think maybe Mom might be a little higher on the priority list? And could we maybe have some excitement? Like, Mom, I'm so excited. I've ironed it out. I've made the decision. I'm really excited. I've decided to go to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I'd be like, oh my gosh, Bobby, I'm super. No, who am I kidding? I knew he was doing that. I just wanted to be told, right? I wanted to be a part of the process. I wanted to be, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted. And I was kind of hurt. And I was like, oh, okay. So you put down the deposit. How about next time you tell me? How about next time you clue me in? And he looked at me like I had 4 heads. And I'm like, I don't know if we're not communicating because it's this boy-girl thing or it's because I'm 55 and you're 17. I don't know, but maybe it's just that I'm really sad that my clock is ticking and it's official that you guys are going to be leaving. Right? If I unwind it all and peel back all of that. And then Chris walked in and I said, have you put down your deposit yet? And he said, no, but I am later today. I'm like, well, congratulations to you two. You're both going to Tennessee to be with your older brother, Ryan. The 3 of you are going to have a wonderful time. I, as a mom, am grateful this chapter of our lives, at least to this point, is buttoned up. Let's go. But still, there's always that lingering thing. Why? Why can't I just enjoy the moment? Why can't I just be like, that's terrific. Good for you boys. You worked so hard for this. Because I did, but I didn't. And I laid an egg on this one, all over it. I think I made my sons feel guilty because that's what women do. We're crazy. I know this. I know. Brock, I don't need you doing like touchdown. Yes, I know. In the studio, I can see you celebrating my admission of crazy. But I have an excuse. I'm deeply connected to the people I love, and I probably love a little too much. Maybe squeeze a little too hard. Maybe think things a little too much. But you know what? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if you ever felt that way about your government? Wouldn't it be nice if you ever felt like your opinion mattered, like someone wanted your advice? Like they were like, hey, I know that we work for you, and I know we don't work that often. I mean, you guys are working 9-to-5 jobs, but we don't really do that. But we're going to ask you what you guys think. And then you know what we're going to do? We're going to go out there and we're going to work hard on your behalf, and we're going to execute, and we're going to bring it home, and we're going to do this thing together, and we're going to make America great again. You'd be like, yes. And that they don't do that. They don't do that. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. Look, I'm delighted that my sons are moving on into the next chapter. And I'm also devastated, right? I don't know how to cook for 2. I've cooked for 7. Now I cook for 5. Soon it's going to be 2. What? Right? It's all going to change. And it's all going to be fine. And I think that all this stuff that you and I are going through in this family that we call America, I think it's going to be okay too. But I'm baffled that there are so many people who are against making America great again, who are against securing our elections, who are against showing up and doing the job. We're going to talk about this. John Thune, I have a soundbite of his coming up. Again, mystified at the disconnect of this guy. Are they going to go next week and call a vote on the Senate floor? And then none of the Democrats are going to go for it. So all of the Republicans can vote for it and say, oh, well, here's our 53 votes. Sorry, we need 60. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. We tried. Okay, let's go talk about housing or some other such nonsense. I don't know. But I know up until this point, the communication has really sucked. You and I have been paying all of the bills. You and I have been buying the groceries. You and I have been paying the mortgage. We keep the lights on, right? We pay the taxes. We pay the insurance. We do what we need to do. All we need is a liaison to get it across the finish line. And it doesn't look like we're going to have it. Well, the problem isn't the Democrats. The Democrats don't want to make America great again. The Democrats don't want illegals to not be able to vote. Democrats don't want to stop cheating. Democrats don't want to do any of that. And they will vote as a blob to that end. It's the Senate Republicans that piss me off. The movement at a snail's pace. Let's talk about the real obstruction in Washington right now, because it is the Republican Senate leadership. They are slow walking everything this president wants, everything in his agenda. And the man holding the gavel, John Thune, is the worst of the worst. Under his leadership, the Senate has become a graveyard for Trump-backed legislation passed by the House. Bills that the American people demanded, bills that the House Republicans delivered, bills that the Senate has sat on for over 1 year. You ready? How about this? These are the things that have been sitting in the Senate waiting to get moved on for more than 430 days. The SAVE Act. Okay? This has been in there since January 3rd of 2025. 430 days later, not moving. How about the Halt All Legal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act to crush fentanyl trafficking? Yeah, that's still waiting too, 430 days later. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, so that if you are a botched abortion and you happen to live, that they have to save your life. Crazy that we need to pass a bill, but we're not passing a bill because the Senate Republicans haven't moved on it for 430 days. How about the Action versus No Action Act? There's literally an act that says, you know what? I think we need to act rather than not act. That's a bill, right? It's been sitting in the Senate for 430 days. How about multiple border security and energy protection bills? Yeah, 430 days. How about the Epstein Files Transparency Act? That still hasn't moved across the Senate finish line. The Clear Skies Act, which would be energy and environmental deregulation. The Tribal Trust Land Homecoming Reforms Act. The Bow Wow Act. That something as simple as, can we all agree that if an illegal alien hurts a dog, a law enforcement dog, whether it's a cop dog or it's an ICE dog, that person should be deported and never be able to come back into this country? We can't get that across the freaking finish line. Why? Why? I don't think Senate Republicans want to show up and do the job. I don't think Senate Republicans want to actually work. I don't think Senate Republicans want to lose their weekends and all of the holiday time. They're off more than Joe freaking Biden was, and he was off for 40% of his presidency. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is where I am today. I might have gotten a little bit fussy with my kids, just sort of as a happenstance, matter-of-fact side note. Oh, yeah, we're going to Tennessee for college. Thanks, Mom, for everything for the last 18 years. That might have gotten me a little greased. This is going to be a full dumpster fire, ladies and gentlemen. You ready? Buckle up. When we come back, let's listen to limp-wristed John Thune. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. Really? Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, I'm going to share
Ever feel
this
like
information
the phone is
with you.
eavesdropping? That's because big tech treats every user's life like a corporate paycheck.
It's time to stop being the product. Millions are making the move to MeWe, the place where private connections and online communities actually thrive.
On MeWe, privacy is a human right, not a hidden setting. They don't track users, they don't sell personal data, and they truly believe in free speech. No shadow bans, just real conversations.
Join the 21 million people taking their digital lives back. Use code WELCOME2026 at checkout to grab 20% off MeWe Premium.
Okay, let's get back here to Wendy Bell.
Vote. Well, magically, just like that, John Thune's like, maybe we will bring it to the Senate floor for a vote. Maybe sometime next week. Earth to John Thune. Come in, John Thune. Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. GOP will bring SAVE Act to the floor to put Democrats on the record on voter ID. Yeah, about that. We already know none of them is going to vote for it. You know what? Who might? Fetterman. Right? That's still going to leave us 6 votes shy, even if you could beat Lisa Murkowski with a pipe and have her vote the way you want, right? I don't see it happening. So you know what you do? Oh, there's that wild thing that you can do. It's called show up for the talking filibuster, John. Now, see, this is going to require a little bit of work. There's going to be some scheduling because the Democrats are going to have to explain themselves. They're going to have to explain themselves in the course of one legislative day, which means they can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. They could talk for 60 days if they want to talk. I'd love it. I'd love to hear what any of these vacuous morons have to say. But you got to be there. You have to be there. You have to fill the seats. You can't go away on the weekends. You're going to have to put off that summer vacation possibly, or that spring break with the grandkids. It's called Save America. Save America. Save America. Personal vacation. I don't really like to work that much. I like my 3 days a week off. I'm going to go with Save America. I might be in the minority if I was a Republican senator. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has announced that he will bring the Save America Act to the floor of the Senate, despite claiming that he does not have the votes to pass the legislation with or without utilizing the talking filibuster. Because he lacks the votes to accomplish passing the bill with the talking filibuster, he will instead bring it to the floor with a 60-vote threshold. Don't fall for it. Of course, we need to know exactly who is refusing to enforce the talking filibuster. That is how we get this bill passed. People got to show up. They got to talk. Republicans got to show up, got to get their heinies in the seats. It's the way it goes. Well, let's listen to John Thune. I'm not sure I feel the urgency here, right? I never feel from this guy who's like, look, I understand the president's idea, and this is what he wants. And he's called me, and he's been like, Johnny boy, look, I got to get this across the finish line. I'm signing nothing else until you guys get off your duff and get it to pass. So get it to pass. Roger, copy, and I'm ready to do that. Now, you never get that from John Thune. He's sort of like, well, you know, maybe next week. Let's listen.
We don't have the votes either to proceed, get on a talking filibuster, nor to sustain one if we got on it. But that is just a function of math. And there isn't anything I can do about that. I mean, I understand the president's got a passion to see this issue addressed, as we all do.
Does he understand that, though?
Well, we've conveyed that to him, but we will continue to make that argument because I think it's important that everybody understand that this really is it's about the votes. It's about the math. And I'm for better or worse, I'm the one who has to be the clear-eyed realist about what we can achieve here. And so we'll continue to convey that. And I think that we're going to have the fight on the floor. We're going to vote on this. We're going to put it up, and we'll give the Democrats the opportunity to cast their vote on whether or not they think non-citizens ought to vote in American elections.
Is that the sound of like outside the box thinking? Is that like Mr. Leader? You're like, that guy, whatever he's got going on, I love it. It's so energetic and moving. Like, yes, 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 yes. No, you're like, what a limp, meh, vanilla, zero. Hey, John, how about you do this? You're the leader, Senate Majority Leader. I'm just going to go with, I don't know, maybe you lead. Maybe you talk to the people. Maybe you say to Tom Tillis, look, Tom, I know you're on the way out, and I know you hate Donald Trump. I mean, I know you hate Stephen Miller and are totally obsessed with him more, but I know you hate Donald Trump, right? However, I'm going to tell you how this is going to play, because if you don't vote yes, I'm going to make your life an everlasting nightmare. I don't know how he would do it. Be creative. Be devious. Be a dealer. Wheel and deal. What can you offer? What's going on? Instead, he's like, we don't have the votes, so it's not going to work. Can you imagine if you showed up at your job, right? Your boss is like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And you're like, well, I mean, I guess we could try. I don't really think it's going to work. So, I mean, like, I don't even know why I would try, but it's not going to work. So let's just go to have lunch, right? That's what they're doing. How about some of these other things that haven't passed that we're waiting for? How about the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act? Yeah, because that passed the House with flying colors. And it went to die on John Thune's desk in the Senate. How about the Deporting Fraudsters Act of 2025? I mean, it kind of feels timely, though it's 2026. So, hey, John, what's the hang up, bro? How about DHS funding? Oh, border security bills for 2026, sitting unfinished for more than 200 days. What do they do, guys? What does your government do? I'm not saying a whole lot. And the ones that we do see, if they are there, they're accused of being drunk. Mazie Hirono. It literally is a frat house. The Senate, to me, it's like being at the Sigma Chi house at the University of Colorado, right? Where your feet stick on the floor and you hope it's because of beer. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, does the Senate not have the votes, or are they just too lazy to work? And you got to hear Glenn Beck. I caught wind of this yesterday, and he's absolutely spot on. Worst case scenario, they've gotten really accustomed to having to do nothing. Right? Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All righty. Great information as usual, and that's why I share her videos. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, I'm going to include this video in my daily news wrap-up, so you'll get to see the rest of that if you tune into that. Okay, let's jump back here, and let me remind you folks that these videos that I share with you are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos. I have the links to the channel, to the producer's channel, right here in the description box. So if you want to scroll down here and see more of the videos yourself, or go to the channel and see what other information they have, you have access to it right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy this information in from the live chat. Copy. Let's slide down here into a comment so that it will be permanent with this video. Okay, let me clean this up just a little bit. All right. There we have it. It's now permanent because the live chats will just kind of disappear into cyberspace when this live stream is over. Now, again, these videos that I share with you are videos that I've posted on Mertech.com, where I have over 40 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos, the kind of information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. Okay, I'd like to share everything with you here, but I just don't have the time to do so, and that's why I've put together my daily news wrap-up playlist. All right, right here's Wendy Bell's video that I've got in the playlist that I'm going to share with you, And Dan Bongino's, we got information from Benny Johnson about CNN anchor just ended her career live on air. On the Fringe, some more information about the CNN anchor from Black Conservative Perspective. McWater's Effect, official Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Also another video from Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Barry Cunningham, Badlands Media. It says I got 16 videos in here and about 10, 11 hours worth of great information. Okay, so go ahead and take a break. Give me some time to put this together. Grab a donut and a cup of coffee, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer, or a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll get this going for you. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.